I guess they said we're on, so what I wanted to do today was just take a quick minute to bring you up to date on our with the town hall today, and just kind of say how much we've missed you, and it's good to see some folks here in the auditorium, and but we really miss all of you that are at home and have been home for about, I guess now, the past 6 months, 6 to 7 months, and we can't wait to have you back in the building. I know we're going to a couple discussions on that in the headquarters on when we'll get back to that, but we truly miss you, miss the camaraderie around the building, miss seeing everybody's faces, but we understand for safety and health concerns that it's necessary, but we truly do miss you. So, Sergeant Major?
Yeah, so welcome to the town hall, everybody, and for those on YouTube, thank you very much for dialing in. As we stated already, we do miss everybody being in the building. There's nothing like fellowship and camaraderie, especially in and around the halls of HRC. But we look forward to this discussion and providing you all some information.
Okay, so without further ado, we'll go to the next slide. A lot of you have seen this already, but just to bring everybody up to date. So kind of my leadership philosophy for the team is exactly that. It's the team moniker. And again, T for together. Together we'll provide world-class service to our nation, our Army, and our soldiers. Again, it's a team effort. And I think the interesting thing coming to HRC is that now you are the we that they used to call the they out in the field. So anytime something went wrong in the field, you were always, you would point the finger at HRC and say, they are the ones who did this. Well, now you're the they. And so I think as long as you take that to heart and understand exactly, you come and tell me something's wrong? Okay. I think you take that to heart and you understand that you're now part of the team and you're here to make a difference for our soldiers and their families. You will do just fine in EPMD. And again, I think it's our job to put the human in human resources. Again, it's not done by a machine, even though we have a lot of automated tools that assist on a daily basis. We really do put the human in human resources on a daily basis. Again, as I travel around the Army, the one thing that I tell everybody in the field is that I am truly amazed on a daily basis just what happens in EP behind the scenes that nobody in the field will ever know that you do. There's 574 folks who work on a daily basis to make sure that the EPMD machine turns. And as Tony Teolis likes to say, that the human Pez dispenser is popping out people. But there's more than that goes on. And the care and concern that the EPMD team takes on a daily basis to make sure that the right soldier arrives at the right place at the right time is truly just astounding. And I'm amazed, even today, a year later after being here, just how amazing the team is on a daily basis. The E for expert, it's kind of like when you go to the doctor. You expect that the doctor is going to know everything there is to diagnose you correctly. And I would expect the same in our EPMD team. You are now the subject matter expert. So when anybody calls from across the Army to talk to us, you are speaking on behalf of the entire team. And they expect you to know exactly what you're talking about. So what I would say is, if you don't know the answer, don't come up with something. Just tell them you get back to them. We do that all the time. I do that all the time because I am not the endowed with all the knowledge to answer every question, but I have a team of professionals across the board who are able to answer those questions. And so if I don't know the answer, I just tell that person I'll get back to them. Then you go and research and you come back and give them the right answer. It's better to tell them that you don't have the answer to then come off the cuff and come off with an answer that doesn't either make sense or that we can't then put into action. So be the SME in your area. No one knows more about your profession than you do. I believe that, and then be a professional 24/7, 365. Kind of goes without saying. That's kind of the way the Army works, and that's how we'll operate. And then the A for action, and my first point there is to be biased toward action. When you get a request or you get an RFI, just don't let that sit. Kind of action as quickly as possible. And this goes to one of the things I talked about at the PCC class last week with, I call it triage your email, and email triaging. So when you come in the morning and you look at your email inbox, you go through and you can see all those things that you can get rid of quickly in your inbox, right? All the things from Kohl's or, your favorite shopping store, you can get rid of those quick. And what I normally do is I then look to see who I've received emails from. And I kind of, General Calloway, did I get an email from him? Yep. So I look at those first. And you just kind of triage your email because that way you can sift through it easier. And if there's one in there from Tony Teolis, I don't look at that till last. No, I'm just kidding. But you can triage your email a whole lot easier and actually kind of prioritize your email in the morning when you first get in, and then work those throughout the day with the actions and the other calls that you receive. So I would just say that that's being biased toward action, and on those items that you can action quickly, and there may be low-hanging fruit, you action those quickly and clean those out as quickly as possible. Make a positive difference on a daily basis. I'm a kind of a glass is half full kind of guy. So what I would say is, when you come in on a daily basis, be a positive influence for change, or be a positive influence in your section. You are the one who decides what that is on a daily basis, so you can either look at the glass half empty or half full. I can tell you life is a whole lot easier if you look at the glass half full. Think outside the box, look for innovative solutions, and don't be what I call the HR bureaucrat. And that is, we all know what the policies and regulations and the law says, but again, sometimes those are there as guidelines, and then there's operation. We're allowed to operate within those guidelines. I think sometimes we have to think outside the box. You're presented on a daily basis with actions that don't fit into those nice little guidelines or laws or rules, and then sometimes those guidelines and those policies are out of date, and we're the ones who have to look at that and say, you know what, I think that policy really doesn't apply anymore, or it needs to be adjusted. But we're the ones, you now have the power to make those adjustments. Or we make that recommendation up to DMPM, and DMPM is then the one who makes that change. Again, you're now in a position to be able to affect change, and I think sometimes keeping yourself within the box or the confines of those policies and procedures sometimes stymies our ability to help the Army at large and help families and soldiers when they need us most. Okay? Just this year I can remember John Finke and his team working to get a MACP couple out of Korea whose the wife had given birth to 2 young babies. They were just newborn, days old, and they had challenges. The 2 babies had challenges. And so John's team worked immediately, and within 48 hours, we were able to get that family out of Korea and back to Walter Reed to take care of those 2 young babies. I can tell you there was not a happier married Army couple in the United States Army on the day that we flew them out of Korea and they arrived at Walter Reed. Those are the kind of things where your team can work outside the box and look outside the box to make those actions happen, and that's what I would ask you to do on a daily basis. I always love this quote by Gandhi, be the change that you want to see in the world, because sometimes it's easy to sit back and say, you know what, it'd be great if we could change that. It'd be great if that policy changed so we could help more soldiers, or it'd be great if somebody else made that decision. Well, you know what? You now have the power to recommend those decisions, and in some cases you have the power to make that decision and make that change. So be the change that you want to see instead of waiting for somebody else to make that change. And then one of my favorite phrases, most of you know, is is carpe diem. Kind of seize the day, make every day the most of it. Make the most of every day, and live each day to the fullest. We only get to go around this world once, and as you go around the world, you need to make the most of every day, because when you lay down your head at night, God never guarantees that you're going to get another one, and so you have to make the most of every day that you have, and make a difference in somebody's life, and make a difference in your family's life during that day, again, because you're never guaranteed another one. And then I think one of the last points that I'll bring up is the M, and really that's mental attitude, and that kind of ties everything else together. So again, when you wake up in the morning, you get 2 choices. How do you live your day? You either live it positively or you live it negatively. And you can take the 90% of what happens in your day and then let that affect, or the 10% that happens in your day affect the other 90% of your life. And I think if you do that, you tend to not be a very happy person. So if you take the 10% that happens to you, and then you affect that 90% and make it positive, I think you're kind of living life the right way. Your positive mental attitude on a daily basis and how you work with our soldiers and our families out in the field, you can make huge differences just by being positive and being able to work with each one of them on a daily basis. And then the last thing on there is just smile and enjoy what you do. I can't tell you how many times I walk down the hallways in HRC and I'll walk by somebody in a big old smile, not that you can see it in the mask now, but and I'll say good morning. And they'll just walk by and not say a word. And you're like, wow, that person must not be happy, you know? So what I would say is you just be the happy person. Walk through the hallway, smile to everybody, and just say good morning, because you never know when you're the person who's going to make the difference in somebody else's life who might be having a crappy day. But you smiling at them and saying good morning can make all the difference. So I just ask you to be a little bit happy throughout the day, and then again, you can make the difference in somebody's life. All right, next slide. And I'll go through this quick because most of you know this. Again, I was just a young podunk kid from Podunk, Pennsylvania. Who would have ever thought that I'd sit here in front of all you today and be able to humbly say that I'm the coach that guides this team. You know, Pennsylvania is my home, but really my home is where the Army sends me. So I've lived all over the world, 27 years now, and been assigned across the entire world. I lived in my first assignment was Germany. Got to spend 4 wonderful years there and had a blast. But again, a couple of deployments in there. Served in Baghdad, Iraq, and in Afghanistan twice. But truly, I will say, when I look back on my life, everything I need to learn, I learned in kindergarten, and I know that's kind of a catchphrase that some people use. But everything I needed to know, I was taught as a young kid. One of the things that isn't on here is, you know, when I was 11, my mother passed away. And I can honestly say, looking back on my life, that my mom, before she passed away, probably taught me everything I needed to know in life. And that had nothing to do with military skill, that had nothing to do with human resources. She had taught me to be a great person and to be a loving and caring and empathetic person as I went through my life. And so everything, I can honestly say, everything that I needed to know about life in general, she taught me. And I'm very blessed by that fact. So what makes me tick? Most of you know that Starbucks makes me tick, and it makes me tick pretty quickly. But I enjoy running, traveling, hiking, spending time with my family and friends. And then for those of you who would like to come down and visit Louisville when it opens back up, I am a self-professed foodie. So come down and share some of great Louisville food with me. Anytime you want to come down on a weekend, we'll be glad to link up and do that. So, and then finally, my family. My greatest achievement in life is being called Dad by those 2 great kids that you see in the picture. Caleb is the oldest, who doesn't look like that anymore. He's much older now, but Caleb is soon to be 21 in January, and then Spencer, my little guy there, who's not so little. He is actually the tallest of the 3 of us now. So but that's just a little bit about my family and about who I am and what makes me tick. Next slide. And this will be the final slide that Sergeant Major and I will kind of interact with. But I firmly believe in life it's all about the little things, and it's all about the little things that make the biggest difference. Again, I think the first one on there is bad news never gets better with time, so just keep me informed. If we have something that's fallen through the cracks or something that we need to work through, my door is always open. The XO does a pretty good job of gatekeeping, but he'll always let you through to talk. And what I would say is if something happens that we need to kind of correct or come online and just let, you know, maybe the CG or the DMPM know, no worries, just bring it up online, we'll walk it through and we'll work it. Nobody is perfect. I am a firm believer in that. Each of us go into each day by the grace of God, and hopefully that we make it through that day without doing something crazy. But we're all going to make mistakes, and those mistakes are always correctable. And my first question will be, did somebody die? And I think here in the United States, that's probably not the case most of the time. So any of those mistakes we can correct pretty readily and then move on. So good news doesn't get better with time, but just bring me up to speed on those. Sorry, Major.
And for those that aren't around often, we are making a difference on a daily basis for soldiers. In case you don't know, the SMA constantly communicates and is looking for information from us. And I'll tell you right now, he is very, very, very proud of the work that EPMD does on a regular basis, on a daily basis. When I communicate with him, it's very apparent that he trusts us and he trusts what we do for him and for the Army.
A couple of the other things I'll just bring to your attention. Ask for clarification. So if something, I know my name gets spread throughout the directorate pretty easily. So if there's something that just crazy gets, something that you sound, that gets to you and it doesn't sound right, or it doesn't sound like, that's something Colonel McGregor would say or Sergeant Major would say, what I would say is just ask the question. Or if I'm giving out guidance and it's not clear, just ask the question. Just say, hey, sir, I'm not sure that makes sense. Can we run through that? And whether or not you want to ask me that in person or behind closed doors, however you want to do it, that's fine. I tend to be kind of even-keeled, so it's not nothing's going to get me too up or too down. But just ask for clarification, because what I would hate to do is that we spend time, on this road only to find out we've gone down the wrong road, when we could have just asked the question at the fork in the road and said, sir, which way do you want me to go? So what I would say is just ask for clarification and seek guidance when you need to. And then the last two things kind of tie together, and that is treat everybody with dignity and respect. Again, you know where we're at in diversity and inclusion across the Army right now. We're looking at that heavily. And what I would say is, as long as you follow the golden rule and you treat everybody with dignity and respect, and you treat everybody the way that you would want to be treated on a daily basis, you'll keep yourself out of hot water. And that kind of goes to the take care of each other, because I truly think that across our society today, we actually lack empathy across the board. And empathy is completely different than sympathy. Empathy is just being able to put yourself, what I like to say is, to put yourself in somebody else's combat boots and look at the foxhole from their side. And I think sometimes we fail to do that on a daily basis, especially when we have a soldier call or an NCO call or a family who sends an email. And it seems like they're just like railing us, right? But I think sometimes we have to take ourselves out of it, put ourselves in their boots and look at the foxhole from their point of view. Say, you know what, where's that coming from? Or where's that question coming from? And then you're able to answer kind of objectively and kind of empathize with the situation that they might be in at that time. And that's all I would ask on a daily basis, that we just, across the board, just show our soldiers and our customers and our families and each other just a little bit more empathy on a daily basis, because I think it'll make a huge difference. And then kind of in line with that is the last point, which is keep your integrity above reproach at all times. It's easy to get into the gossip cycle or to get into the finger-pointing cycle, and I would just say we won't spend much time on that, because I don't agree with that and I don't subscribe to that. If you have questions or if you have concerns, take it to that person, because they're the only ones who can honestly answer that question for you. And it's much better just to have that one-on-one than to just assume what you think might be going on that person or with that person, because they're the only ones that can identify that for you. So, our major subject, anything you have, that's all I have, and we'll turn it over to John to give a quick update on calendar things. Oh, John, go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. Glad you've all joined into us. I'm John Finke from OMD, and we're going to take just a couple minutes and go through a calendar here that'll take us from about October through about the end of December. So if you go ahead and advance the next chart, there you go. Okay, I will not hit all these items, but I will give you a few key ones here. Tomorrow, for some of those of you that have been identified for it, there is an HRC newcomers brief. That'll be over at the Cavalry Chapel. You probably have been identified if you know who you are for that. Tomorrow as well, there is also a session for EPMD's Diversity and Inclusion session. That's the number 4 session for us. That's at the chapel. That'll probably be in the basement as well. So those of you that are identified for that, look forward to that. Look forward to that engagement. Okay, this coming weekend is a Columbus Day weekend. So Friday is the minimal manning day, reduced manning day. So those of you that are civilians that are taking leave, you'll be doing that. And of course, the military will be off that day as well. Next week, if you've been paying attention to what the PAO has put out, if you would like to join in the AUSA conference, you can do that virtually if you'll follow their instructions. That'll be occurring next week after the holiday weekend, if you have interest in doing that. On the 14th of October, and here in the HHC, they'll be having a change of responsibility ceremony for the first sergeant. It should be under the bridge outside there between building 1 and 2. So if you have interest, that is out there on the 14th. Next piece I'll draw your attention to is 20 to 22 October. We call that new branch leader training. That is training that's identified for especially our new branch chiefs and sergeant majors out there. That'll be conducted in room 5111 Delta. We can help you get there if you don't know where that is. But that's kind of some focus training on how we operate in EPMD. So we'd ask you to take and make sure you are there for that. The 21st of October, you see another diversity and inclusion session. And then for our NCOs at the grade of Staff Sergeant and below, there is a virtual staff ride from the dates of 21 to 23 October, and an NCO PD for Staff Sergeants and below on the 22nd. So those of you NCOs that applies to, draw your attention to that. And now I'll drop down on this page here and talk about the, if you will, the Halloween type events. There'll be an HRC costume contest on the 30th. But for some of you that have families or are choosing to participate, on the 29th of October, Thursday night the 29th, there will be a trunk or treat out in Lot Echo there at the HRC complex. And for EPMD personnel and families that wish to participate, bring their kids and participate in that, the EPMD allotted time is 1730 hours to 1800 hours that night. That's out there in the Lot Echo, the E-lot of the parking lot. So if you wish to participate with that, that is on the 29th. That is not the 30th as it is marked on the calendar, but the 29th is the correct date. Next chart, please. Okay, first week in November, we'll see fall cleanup. So we'll have some of our NCOs out in the community working some of our respective areas that G3 assigns us. I think pretty much we're working the same areas, but that week will encompass the fall cleanup piece. For November is a tentatively CG50 hiring policy training, and I would encourage that our new supervisors, whether they be military or civilian, they attend that training because it's really important that you be qualified in that to be able to conduct civilian type hiring actions as you move forward. All right, the 11th of November, that is the classic Veterans Day. Since Veterans Day falls on a Wednesday this year, there is no minimal manning day that surrounds that federal holiday. So that Wednesday is the day off for everyone on the federal holiday, but there will be no other days at that time. Moving on, the week of 16 through 20 November is the next iteration of the AGPCC here at the HRC, and the EPMD day to brief for those of you that are tied up in the briefings for that will be on Thursday the 19th of November. That will be the EPMD day where we make our typical normal presentations to the group that's attending. All right, about a week later, moving into the Thanksgiving holiday time period, you will see, as it's marked there, that both the Wednesday the 25th and Friday the 27th are listed as HRC reduced manning days. So that ties into that. So if you are military and you're wanting to potentially be away those 5 days, make sure you're talking to your leadership and you execute according to the leave policy. You cannot have a 5-day pass, so make sure you understand the rules with that. Your leaders have been given information on that. So if you wish to be gone during that time period, please get your paperwork in and enjoy the holiday. I'll move into the December time period, and I know the command, I heard it briefed this morning, is still working exactly on what the holiday Christmas party will look like for children. It will obviously be different this year as compared to what it has been in the past. I think they're trying to do it in the Patriot Commons, but it clearly will have some different parameters this year in the COVID environment. And the last thing is those of you that have ball tickets, that'll be on Friday night, the 11th, up at the Gold House. So prepare for that and enjoy yourself at that time. Subject to any questions, I will be followed by Ms. Charles, who will talk to us about the upcoming telework process as we move into new times. Thank you.
Good afternoon, EPMD. I am Tracy Charles, the new EPMD PSB branch chief, as well as your Telework your Telework program manager. It is my pleasure today to introduce you to the long-awaited Telework post-COVID policy. This policy can be found in its entirety on the HRC intranet under the CG policies. Next slide, please. Thank you. The purpose of the policy is to, the Telework policy, the Telework program is being implemented to facilitate organizational success in support of the mission. That is why they have implemented the policy. Moving on, the key points of the policy will be phased into effect upon each individual normalcy return to work. What do I mean by that? Well, post-COVID, each individual will be phased back into the organization based off of the different phases. So therefore, what would happen is if an individual comes back in phase one, that at that time, with an approved packet, that personnel can actually begin that telework policy, the telework program. I'm sorry. The policy requires that an individual have an approved packet via their management. So make sure you look at trying to get that done as you begin to phase into the, back into the building. The requirements of this telework pack, I'm sorry, let me slow down. I'm actually used to doing this, but you can't tell today. For some reason, I got a little nervous. So, the location of the actual, your telework location will be at your approved alternate work location, which you would actually get approved via your packet. It will also allow you to be flexible in your day-to-day. Next slide, please. The main key point of the policy is that it is up to the discretionary of management. So no, it is not a automatic approval. You must go through the process, and the step-by-step procedure of the process is located on the intranet, and there's the site listed below. The policy only allows for 1 day a week. So you have to work that out through your management to ensure that you and management are on the same team as far as providing you, as well as the command, the effectiveness they need. Last key point is that supervisors as well as military were not allowed to be supervisors as well as military will be ad hoc only. So therefore, you will not be allowed to telework unless there is an absolute need. That is all I have for you this afternoon. I will be followed by Colonel Hayes. Thank you.
Slide, please. Good afternoon, team. Colonel Brian Harris. Give you your assignment satisfaction key enlisted module update. This is our bridging strategy for EPMD to get us from how we were doing business with the assignment process to IPSA, which should come online in December of 2021. A couple of things. If your team wants to get updates on Ask 'em every Tuesday and Thursday at 1100, we talk all things Ask 'em. On Tuesday, we talk the current marketplace. So today, we talked 2010, and we synchronize our operations across the Directorate. On Thursdays, we look forward. So currently on Thursdays, we are looking at 2101, and Mr. Larry Hayward is conducting training for the next 3 months to get the entire Directorate on board with the full deployment. But team, the slide that you can see at the bottom lays out the 26-week timeline for the enlisted marketplace. And we'll move left to right, but you can see the 6 critical phases at the bottom. You have a personnel assessment and availability tool, period, and YMAV override for 6 weeks for 2101. We started it around Labor Day on 2 September, and it will go all the way until 13 October. This is a time that the career branches will get accuracy in their inventory for their movers. YMAV override out those NCOs who will not move so that you have an accurate and a precise read at the career branch level on your inventory of movers. In the middle of October, we will go into market prep. Readiness Division will look at your movers, and they will build valid requisitions that we will approve for upload into the market. And the 2101 market opens on 11 November at 7 o'clock in the morning. It will stay open for 4 weeks up through 8 December. And then we will go into a slating period for 2 weeks where we will place those NCOs that entered their market preferences on a validated open requirement. We'll take a break around the holiday season from 23 December to 5 January, and then when we come back, we will start the distribution of assignment instructions for those folks. We anticipate up to 10,000 staff sergeants through master sergeants will move across the EPMD in this upcoming 2101 deployment. And then they will have report dates from July through October of 2021. So in the upper left team of the slide, you can see some of the critical dates that are coming up. After you declare your movers, the Readiness Division will take a look at those numbers on the 23rd of October, and for the next couple of days, up until about 26, 27 October, they will build valid requisitions against those movers. And then they will deliver those requisitions to the career branches so that they can review and ultimately approve those markets on 6 November. And those are the jobs that those 10,000 NCOs will see when the market opens on 11 November. All right. At the bottom, you can see some of the touch points. I want to highlight the touch points that EPMD has with those 10,000 NCOs. No earlier than 5 October, but no later than 14 October, there will be a manual email notification to those 10,000 NCOs. It will go something like, hey, we've identified you to move. You will move sometime between July and October of 2021, and the market will be active on 11 November at 0700. Those manual emails will go out and be complete no later than 14 October so that RD can build those valid requisitions. Once the market opens, there's 3 automatic touch points. One, on the morning that the market opens at 0700, those 10,000 NCOs will get an automated email that gives them access to the market. 7 days prior to market closure, those 10,000 NCOs will get a reminder that the market is about to close. If you haven't submitted your preferences, please do so immediately. And then once they hit the submit button, they get that 3rd automatic email, which is a list of those jobs that they preferenced in the market. So those are the highlights of the 26-week timeline. The upper right team, I would just like to highlight a couple things that the career branches can be doing and should be doing right now. One, in the PAT tool in the EPMD toolkit, there are 2 data fields that require action by the career manager. One, the assignment priority. They have three categories: operating, generating, or broadening. The career manager has to get in there, assess that NCO's file, and then place one of those priorities into his or her file. And the second piece, if you choose to use it, there's a notes to soldier data field, 150 characters that your career manager can put some message to the soldier. One of the messages that the armor team uses is if we assess that NCO's file is a good candidate for drill sergeant or recruiter, we will put that note in that data field. The reason why I wanted to highlight that team, in the Ask Him interface, those 2 data fields populate. So if the career branches and managers do not take action, the NCO, when he or she accesses the market, will have a blank data field. So those are some things that you can be doing right now to prepare for market opening on Veterans Day. Email notifications are going out. If you have a question, please see your pilot branches, 19, 35, or 92 Yankee MOS, and they can provide your career branches with an example email. And then I'll talk about this in the next slide, but our Readiness Division uses the EMC column to determine your movers. So if you have a different technique within your branch, if you're using a different running estimate, Readiness Division looks to the PAT tool, they look at the EMC column, So in this case, they'll look at EMC 2101 to determine your movers. You can have other products that you can have redundant products team, but just know that Readiness Division builds requisitions on what that column looks like. So between now and the day you declare movers on or about 23 October for 2101, you have to make sure that that column is as accurate and up to date as your teams can get. All right. We'll move on to some lessons learned from the pilot. Next slide, please. Okay, in June we did a pilot for 35, 19, and 92 Yankee. We did about a pilot for about 700 NCOs, and these are some of the feedback points that I'm going to share with you. Starting in the upper left, we did receive feedback through emails. We conducted a session with the Sergeant Major of the Army in late summer. We had several NCOs on the call with him that participated in the pilot, and you can see some of the big trends. The NCOs the 505 that submitted preferences liked the ease of use. They could navigate the interface in an easy manner. There were some instruction points where we identified possible friction, and they could get through it from top to bottom easily and quickly as they went through and navigated the site. One of the reoccurring trends was just the transparency of this new way of doing business for the enlisted manning cycle. All of the participants that I've heard, that I've talked to, at least from the Armor branch, they like the fact that they could see all of the jobs. The E6 market in one of my branches could see over 100 job opportunities in the pilot. So that was one key takeaway. The third one down, as the market progresses over 4 weeks, those NCOs can log back in and they can see the hot assignments. There's a popularity meter, and it helps manage expectations for those NCOs. They can see those hot assignments. They can go back in and re-preference if they think that an assignment is unattainable. And then finally, predictability. Year month available to move came online for the soldier in the Assignment Satisfaction Key website in June. EDAS has it now as well for specific queries from the units. And in the near future, we will have a mass query in Web EDAS. But soldiers liked the fact that they could see when the system was tracking them as a mover based on their YMAV. And if there was a disconnect, that would generate a follow-on discussion with their career manager. So some of the big takeaways from the first pilot. The second live iteration just ended, and we're still in the process of gathering some feedback from that. We'll get that out to the team as we get that. But moving on to the right, upper right, some of the specific market analytics. We had over 5,000 site visits, no catastrophic failures on the technology side, minimal latency, and the interface functioned as designed. I'll share with the team, we had almost 6,300 site visits, I believe, for the 2010, and again, no functionality or latency issues. For the first pilot, the next bullet down, you can see we had 505 NCOs submit preferences out of 716 for about a little over 70% participation rate. For live iteration 2, right now we're tracking 75% participation rate, so we're trending up, and I believe as we open this up and as we continue to message the field, we will continue to increase that rate. But of those folks who participated, you could see that 55% of those NCOs received one of their top 5 choices, 278 to be exact. As we get to analytics for 2010, we will share that across the force. On the next bullet down, there is a stabilization option within ASCIM. In addition to preferencing where you want to go, you also can elect to stay or go, or decide that you do not have a preference. For this market, for the pilot run, we had 73 NCOs that preferenced something, and they also requested to stabilize. We were able to support that in 37 of the instances. Some of the things that cause us to have to move a soldier when he or she wanted to stay, or jobs such as drill sergeant due to the criteria recruiter, and some of them volunteered for SFAB as a couple examples. So those are the market analytics, and at the bottom I'll highlight a couple things that we learned. And again, if you have specific questions, 35 team, Mr. Bova, 92 Yankee team, Mr. Brooks, Lieutenant Colonel Black, Lieutenant Colonel Chandler, myself, we all can share these lessons learned and drill down if your teams have questions. So come up on the net with one of us, or jump in and participate in the Tuesday IPR for the current fight, or Thursday during the forward look, or the training associated with 2101. All right. So the first couple of points. The 26-week journey starts with the career branches. You have to get an accurate read on your inventory. You have to do your homework. It starts with those initial email notifications. From that touch point, you can move folks out of the market if they have a valid reason. I'm retiring. If you've received the retirement paperwork as an example, you can move that NCO out of the 2101 bucket and tighten up your inventory number. Do that early and often. Stuff changes on a daily basis. YMAV rules update daily, and you will have a moving target on an inventory. So in the lead up to the market, what we learned, the branches that got in early and more frequently had a tighter read on their overall inventory, and it led to some tighter metrics as we open up the market. I already talked about assignment priority and notes to soldier. As a CBUS or a career as a branch chief, you can get in and you can see which career managers are moving down the right path. Some will be farther along than others. 2 data points you can look at is open up your PAT and see who has entries in those 2 data points, assignment priority or notice to soldier. If they're still blank, then folks have some work to do as you guys get into the final weeks of PAT and YMAV override phases. All right. I already shared that the EMC column is the center of gravity for RD. Armor branch, I'll share some lessons learned. We were using projected market kind of to determine who our movers were, and it was off than what the EMC column was. So the EMC column is where you need to look to declare your number of movers for the market. All right, it's not just the next one down. It requires synchronization across EPMD. So career branches have to declare their movers in a timely manner so that RD can do their critical task. And then once their critical tasks are done, career branches, you have to go in and review those markets and ultimately approve them so that FSIB can pull them into the market. So those weekly sync sessions are important, and if your teams have questions, please pop up on the net. A couple other lessons learned. If we at this time we do not have a ghost NCO to go into the market and monitor what those MOSs and grades are seeing. So you can place one of your PD NCOs into the market. YMAV override one of your NCOs into the market. Make sure Mr. Doug Atkins is tracking, and you can see exactly what your population is seeing for that particular marketplace. It allowed us to have some good feedback and visibility on what the force was seeing. So that's an option if you want to do that. I know Persons D is in the process of developing that capability so that we can get that into our common operating picture, but that is not active at this time. FSIB developed some exceptional PAT reports to allow us to get situational awareness on the market during the 4-week process. Talk to those target branches. If you have questions, Mr. Doug Atkins is kind of the lead on the PAT work, the PAT reports, and we talk those in the synchronization process, all right? And then every Thursday at 1100, Mr. Larry Hayward leads over Microsoft Teams the PAT training for the upcoming market in 2101. And pending any questions at the end of the brief, that concludes the update. But I'm on the global if the career branches have any questions. Brian Harris. And again, Tuesdays we look at the current fight at 1100 over the phone bridge, and Thursdays we conduct training and synchronized efforts for 2101. Sir, any of your questions? That's all I have.
Hello, everyone. My name is Major Ferguson. I'm from Readiness Division, Modeling and Requirements Branch. I'm the deputy there. And I'm here to talk to you about a slating tool that we're developing. Next slide, please. So our slating tool, what we're trying to actually do is build on a lot of the problems and issues that Colonel Harris had basically just brought up. If we are bringing in preference information from every soldier, that becomes a really kind of hard problem for PD NCOs and assignment managers to try to sit there and figure out. They kind of end up like Winnie the Pooh tapping their head, looking at a spreadsheet going, think, think, think. And why do we want to do that when we can let computers do some things that computers do really well and then allow humans to do things that we do really well? So let's play off each other's strengths. And that's what we can kind of do in building this slating tool, use some algorithms to actually assign soldiers and then take managers out of the execution of a slate and put them in the role of managing that slate. So that's the problem. That's really what we're doing. We're actually already partially there, and that's what we show on the bottom of the slide. Is in 2008 for that market, we've actually done some initial use of our tool. We can use it on both sides of the market, pre actually sending out and getting preferences and post. There's a lot of the same problem structure there, and what that allows us to do in RD is to get the right recs out to the market. To be able to hit that, these are the priority 1 recs or about 110% of the number of movers that you have. So that way we're not completely flooding the ASCM market and saying, well, we're only going to move 2 of you, but preference all 120 of these recs. That there may not be value to that. So we kind of have that. We're also working on, for right now in 2110, to help the pilot MOSs with the data that they just got back this week, and to provide them maybe a static slating capability. So it's almost like a beta test of what we have. And what that does is it'll give them, here's based on the algorithm we're developing, we'll send you out and give you this slate. It won't account for things like EFMP and MACP. Those are things that will still have to be swapped, but it gives you maybe a good starting point, a really good starting point to work from. What we then like to get to for 2101 for everybody is a finalized tool that allows you to basically click through, push button, slate everyone, and then inside the tool as well, make those small additions for those special cases like EFMP and Married Army Couples Program. Again, putting people in the driver's seat to manage the process rather than just execute the process. Next slide, please. So how do we actually accomplish this? We accomplish this through establishing what our goals, what our priorities are. We use a technique that's actually called goal programming. So we think just programming in those goals. These are what we care about. And that's what those 4 goals are. In practice, we maybe break some of these out into sub-goals, but basically, if you think about it as just we're trying to meet fill as many requisitions as we can subject to all those absolute hard minimum constraints. Uh-oh, lost my slides. We'll continue. So we subject to those minimum constraints. That might be like filling an airborne rec with a non-airborne soldier. That's a no-go. We can't do that. Putting an OCONUS soldier on a back-to-back OCONUS rec. Nah, don't want to do that. So, we fill as many as we can, we lock that in as a constraint, and then we move on and try to optimize, like maximize or minimize relative to the next constraint. So let's get as high as we can on the 1-to-N list. So if I could fill a priority 2 or a priority 1, let's fill the priority 1 requirement. Some pretty common sense stuff. And we basically just go down those goals just like that and get to the best answer. And you can kind of see that a little visually, working right to left. where we start with a lot of possibilities. There's a lot of potential slates, a lot of ways to do that, many ways to skin the cat. And as we start necking down, we put those constraints on, and we start narrowing in on what is the best one we want. And then when we finally get to the one we want, there's the slate from the slating tool. A lot of background information on the bottom of the slide if you want to leave it to read it for later, but basically that goes into the technical definitions of what we're talking about in each of those. And our third slide, next slide please. This last slide is a bit of a mock-up, so it's not in production yet. This is kind of what we want to get to for 2101, but you can see there's parts of it that are live right now, and actually does look a little better than this. But basically we start with a CMF view, and you just click on your CMF, any CMF you want that you have access to, and then it'll show you the markets. If you click one of those markets, right now in the tool, it will slate. It takes about 10 to 15 seconds. We're hoping to even get that down a little faster. And you'll actually get a result. And the result is, I want this soldier on this rec. That's live today. What we want to get to for 2101 is to actually take care of those special cases, the EFMP and the MACP, to provide a click-through for the name or the requisition, so then you can manage that inside the tool rather than get you off the spreadsheets. And then we also want to maybe track some metadata on there, which is what's the reasoning behind that, whether or not the soldier is slated to the same organization, so that's a stabilization and a YMAV override rather than maybe putting them on an actual rec to kill that rec. So those are the things that we want to get to basically make your assignment as easy as possible when trying to slate there. Again, the computers will do this. They'll do it right every single time. They'll sort through millions of possible combinations of answers, and they'll give out the best one, the same one every single time. So that's why we want to use those to help us. And then nobody can accuse me as an assignment manager, if I was one, of any bias or anything like that, because we put it into the algorithm, what we care about, what we value, and we have an audit trail for the field. So then hopefully there's a little bit better buy-in and trust rather than, he's your friend and he got the Hawaii rec. So that never happens, but it might build more trust in the future. If anybody has any questions about all of this, feel free to submit them or come out and reach out to us in modeling requirements. We have some much deeper, a deeper dive we can take you through, walk you through all the priorities. We can go as deep as you want to go down the rabbit hole. Again, Major Ferguson, Matthew D. on the global, and thank you very much. Sir, I think we're done with this portion, so it's back to you and Sergeant Major.
All right, thanks, Matt. So over the course of the past couple weeks, I think the XO had taken in some questions and concerns from the team. So Sergeant Major and I will take and answer a couple of those questions right now. And then if you have other questions or concerns, feel free to send those to John, and we'll get responses back out to you on those questions as well. We'll probably just send out an EP all on those with the question and then the response. So feel free to send those to the XO, and we'll get those back to you. So the first question was, can we hang the Ask 'em information brief on the HRC main page to better inform the field, including all the facts and the answers? And the answer there is yes. We're working right now with PAO to get that briefing loaded. We're also working on a video that will also be loaded for the field that actually we're hoping to get the SMA to do an introduction for. And then we'll have the facts and answers with that as well that will get loaded. Specifically, in preparation for that 11 November go live date, I've already talked to Colonel Hayes and the team about coming up with some strategic messaging for that. I'm kind of using the Veterans Day banner as a gateway for our kickoff of the Ask 'em as well. So yeah, we can definitely do that, and you look forward to seeing that on there, and we'll let everybody know when that's up and going. So maybe.
Awesome. Another question that was asked was, is there any plan with extending or making the PDNCO position a 3-year assignment, or will it remain 2? In other words, to make it coincide with YMAV's 36-month PCS alignment. So currently, in accordance with the CG Policy Memorandum 11,
all NCO positions and assignments here at HRC are at 36 months. So as of right now, every single NCO position, every assignment here, to include the AGR personnel inside HRC and EPMD in specific, is at 36 months. Now, I will caveat that by saying that closer to the 36-month time for that NCO looking to possibly PCS, if there is a need, a requirement for that person, that NCO, to extend past the 36 months, recommend that you come online immediately and provide the pertinent information, paperwork, 41A7 requirements, and then we'll go from there.
One of the other questions was, is there an idea of when the leave pass approval authorities will be returned to pre-COVID-19 administrative levels? I think right now, unfortunately, the CG is kind of holding that where it is, to where all of your leaves and passes have to come to me for approval. I think once we get back to, or once we move back to the phases, I think during the first couple phases of that, those leave and pass policy approvals will be dropped even lower. But I think at this time, it'll remain with me. Again, just my point there is to the division chiefs is that I would much rather buy or assume that risk for somebody going on leave and potentially contracting COVID than put that down on the division chiefs. So that's why all your leaves and passes come to me. And that's really the only reason, is because, again, I want to buy that risk and not put that on the division chief. So, but yeah, I suspect in the next couple phases, when we start moving back through those phases, that'll also drop back down. So,
another question was, will the NCO contact waiver go away eventually with ASCM? Currently, it's in discussion. There's going to be more to follow as we continue to move along with ASCM. But I suspect that there's still going to be conversations with the enterprise, with the Army folks out there. So, the assignment managers, PD NCOs, still going to have those conversations.
There was a question that came up about whether or not we could get the flu shot to be disseminated or to be given at the mod complex, to where folks could just come back into the mod complex and get that done. It was actually part of the COVID update this morning that the team, the HRC surgeon, is actually working to get that onto the mod complex. I think he's working with Walgreens and a couple other spots to potentially bring that onto the complex. So you'd have kind of a one-stop shop where you can come in, get your flu shot, and then head back out. But we'll keep you posted on that. And again, that'll come out as an EPMD all, just to make sure everybody's aware of how that would work. Okay.
One of the other questions that was asked is, do we foresee any issues, IT server issues, with the slating tool going into 2101? And do we expect for this to ever go manual? So there should be no issues right now with server capacity. Any upgrades are already planned to decrease server utilization and runtime for each request. And so the next release of 2101 will allow EFMPM Act these modifications inside the tool.
Cool. So, subject to any questions from the audience here in person? Any questions, concerns? Speak now or forever hold your peace. All right, I think that's about all we had, Sergeant Major. Any closing remarks?
Yes, for the listening audience on YouTube, if you do have any questions, please get them to us, Mr. Adam Tapp in OMD. Please get them to him, or contact us via email, or call us, or come on in and come talk to us. Again, we look forward to seeing you come back into HRC. Obviously, with the COVID environment, we want to make sure that we're taking every precaution necessary. But we are looking very much forward to seeing you all come back in.
In the meantime, what I would say is, if you happen to be in the complex, and this is for everybody that's out there watching, if you happen to be in the complex, feel free to stop by and see us in the headquarters and visit. A couple weeks ago, we had several folks stop by. Miss Cherry stopped by. I missed her hugs along the way. So she stopped by, and she specifically had a hug for me, so that was very, very nice, and look forward to that. So if you're in the building, stop by and see us, because we like seeing your shining faces, and we look forward to everybody back again. And thank you for tuning in today to the town hall. And again, if you have any questions or concerns, don't hesitate to send those to the XO or send them directly to Sergeant Major and I. Will get back and give you some answers. So in that vein, have a great week, stay healthy, and stay safe. Thanks.
Soldiers first.